these are all important, let's say, these are all important rules, and we need to show them to the customers. So first, the customer should have, let's say, some attributes differences. So we need to show how different we are from other competitors. So we need to lead the way of consumer to make a decision making. This is very important. Second one is that we need to really uh, provide the customer a decision making tool, and the customer should develop a decision making tool. So there are different decision making tools. The one that I showed you in the previous slide, which is this one, as you see, the customer determines some attributes, rank them in terms of importance, and then what they do, they rank each brand based on these attributes, and then decides based on this performance score of different brands. So we need to really provide them what type of attributes are important for this product. So they will evaluate these attributes. So marketers should inform the customers. And also we need to make, let's say, we need to make also a decision-making rule. How we should decide which attribute should be in front of the evaluation. These are very important. Now, generally, uh, when we evaluate the products, there is a compensatory rule. What is this compensatory rule? Generally, when the products are compared to each other, some products have advantage over others in some attributes, and they have disadvantage compared to others in other attributes. So generally, products try to differentiate in one or two attributes, and they are more average on other attributes. So there is a balance. This is a compensatory rule. And generally, how we evaluate the products, compare the products in order to decide which one to buy. Generally, we follow two types of rules. One is additive rule, and the second one is weighted additive rule. The simple additive rule is the one which, when we choose the largest, the one with the largest number of positive attributes, this is a simple additive rule. Let's say that we define 5 attributes, and we define 5 attributes, and we have, let's say, we compare 3 brands. So one brand is good in 4 attributes. So according to the simple additive rule, the one with 4 good attributes will win the race. This is the case. So there are also there are also a second rule, which is called the weighted additive rule. The weighted additive rule is also important to let's say to consider. In the weighted additive rule, we just compare the products, again score the products based on the attributes, but these attributes have some weights. So for example, one attribute has more weight than the other in our decision making. So one product, if it is good on that weight attribute, then it will win the race. This is also very important. And of course, there are other issues. For example, we have after we evaluate the products and then we decide to buy one of them, then we need to also choose, right? So when evaluate the products, of course, the criteria show us which one to choose. But in the product choice, there is also another issue. The issue is that we need to really be complexity of the product. Sometimes brings a disadvantage to us. What type of disadvantage? First of all, when the product is, let's say, when the product is, let's say, when the product is, let's say, too complex, then the consumers will have some problem about it. Okay, so this is why it is very important to understand that we need to fulfill the needs of the customer with our features, but we should not exaggerate the number of features in our product. This is very important. Otherwise, it creates really a boredom. It requires too much complexity and mental boredom for the consumers. This is very important. So, and of course, after we purchase the product and we experience it, if we are satisfied with the product, we keep buying the same product. But if we are not satisfied with that product, then we again rerun the cognitive decision making process and we look for different alternatives and we repeat the cycle again to make another purchase. This is very important. Now, this was the cognitive processing. Cognitive processing is a stepwise, systematic process. But on the other hand, there are also some other other decision-making process, which are habitual decision-making. So the habitual decision-making, in the habitual decision-making process, we have, let's say, we have some, let's say, decision making, which is almost automatic. There is not, we don't really process too much information. It is like a reflex. It is like an automatic and habitual based on the behavior. Okay, so this is called habitual decision making. In the habitual decision making, the critical issue is that the customer really doesn't buy sometimes because of its loyalty to the product, but because of this easiness, frictionless of the decision making. So here the inertia plays a role. What is inertia? Inertia means that we always choose the path of making an action which requires less effort. So implement this inertia principle into the habitual decision making, the repeat purchase, automatic repeat purchase, is not because of the loyalty sometimes, but because of the inertia, our wish to not spend too much effort to buy the things that we already know and experience. This results a difficulty for the new brands to break this cycle of repurchasing it. This is why it is very difficult for new market entrers to break and to acquire new customers because of this inertia created by habitual decision making, especially in the low involvement products, because automatic and reflex based purchases with low level of information are generally made in terms of low involvement products like supermarket foods, fast moving consumer goods. These are the. And finally, we have a brand loyalty issue. So in the brand loyalty issue, we have, of course, conscious decision of buying the product. We love the product. We like the brand. We love the brand. We trust the brand. This is why we prefer. The brand loyalty is a result of a cognitive process, not a mutual decision making. Then, of course, there are other ways where marketers try to affect the consumers. What are these different, let's say, what are these different, let's say, ways? Different ways are, first of all, the first one is the priming. What does it mean, priming, actually? Priming is to, let's say, change the way we present something to consumers. In the priming, we try to, let's say, uh, not present, sorry, it's not the way we change the present, but priming is related with uh, just imposing, manipulating the consumer behavior by subconsciously sending some messages to them. Okay, this is priming. So the prime itself is a stimulus, the concept which we will show to the customer and direct him to, to some action or behavior without his conscious. Okay, we are manipulating the customer without his or her knowledge. Okay, so this is the case. So when we have, for example, let's say, we have a test of, we have a research on students as subjects of the research, and what the researchers did actually, the researchers divided the students into two groups. To the first group, researchers showed the images of someone who spends money very liberally and a lot of money and uh, prestigious luxury brands, products, and he uses and buys anything he or she wishes. So they saw the pictures and the video of such person. So the prime here was the money. So students are shown money and its power to purchase the things. Okay? Then second group of consumers didn't, customers or students didn't, we didn't show it anything to them. So, and afterwards, they answered a survey about what they think about, let's say, ethical principles. And the research results show that those student group who is primed by money, they show less ethical standards, weaker ethical standards. And the student group didn't see any prime, which means they are not primed, they show higher levels of ethical standards. So money created some unethical, weaker ethical standards. So this is how we prime the customers. If you show the customers too much a message which has a purpose, a prime, then the consumer may be affected from this message and behave to get that. Okay, it's very important. Another important issue is the nudge. So in terms of nudge, what we have here is that we will have, let's say, we will have, let's say, we will present the things in a way that it will change the behavior of the customer. So if we change the way we present something and we try to uh, change the behavior of the customer, this is called a nudge. Okay. So, for example, you see this type of nudge. Maybe you don't know the name. For example, if you ask the customers to opt in to receive a messages, most probably do not check the box and allow you, not give the acceptance. But if you ask them, if you don't want to be enrolled in the program, please check the box, opt out, then they will not do that. So what does it mean? Generally, asking, they will do it. So they will keep it. They will not do it. So nobody will opt out. So what does it mean? Asking the customers to enroll something, to get something, it's difficult to make an action for them. But if you use this vice versa and ask them whether if you want to opt out from the program, please check the box again you will win much more. Why? Because they will not again check the box. If we are on again on the program, I don't want to be rolled out. So this is the psychological effect much, and this is used too much in the e-commerce, especially in the websites, right? So you see that if you don't want to receive this email, please check the box. They don't say, do you want to receive emails for them? No. If you don't accept, you can check. So, of course, some regulations prohibit this, but again, it is a widely used tactic of marketing, right? One another example is the result of the research which is made with the drivers. Drivers are asked to donate the organ, and 20% responded positive. On the other hand, other drivers are asked to check the bus, to check the box if they don't want to donate. 95% didn't check the box, so they accepted. As you see, it becomes a default bias, right? So we really comply. We want to comply with the requirement. This is default bias. Okay, so because the other one is much more affordable for us, and we don't want to spend effort for them. This is the default bias. And another issue which is critical in decision making is the development of heuristics. Heuristics are mental rules of thumb. Okay, these are mental rules which are formed in time, and they are important. So, what are these heuristics? First of all, variation. Country of origin is very important, right? For example, German made, right? Country of origin image. German made, right? It's a German engineering, for example. Italian style. These are mental rules of thumb. This is why generally products sometimes are packaged and on the package is seen Italian style or made in Germany, right? Why they use this? Because there is a mental rules of thumb, heuristics about country of origin. When you hear that, automatically you change your mind because you know that this is good, German made. Okay? For example, generally there is a perception about high price products are also higher quality products. This is very important. So these are important things, and we can have this one also. So, in addition to individual decision making, we have also collective decision making. In the collective decision making, more than one party is involved in the decision making process. Here we have families, households, and the companies. This type of decision making, I mean collective decision making, is handled through the, let's say, is handled through the to the companies and families. So when we come to the households and families, in a family typically there may be one more than uh, one more than one more than one role in consumer decision process. Maybe one person is the initiator who needs or doesn't need, but he is the person who initiates the decision making process. The other one may be the gatekeeper, so who looks for information and controls the flow of information. The third one may be influencer, who really changes the decisions, maybe, right? Or let's say try to create the decision. Or the other one is the buyer who buys the product actually. And the last one may be the user. Let me give you an example from a family. Think about that you have a child, and in the YouTube, the child sees let's say, a toy, right? He or she, a baby, is the initiator because goes to the money and asks for this toy. The baby is the initiator. Okay, so then the money is the gatekeeper. checks the product in terms of safety and healthy and educational purposes. And if she decides that the product is good for her child, baby, then goes to the father. Father is the influencer, and he thinks that he doesn't want to buy this product, or he can buy the product because he evaluates the product financially, for example, right? Then, if he also accepts, they go together and buy the product. But maybe they maybe they ask another person to buy the product. So the buyer is a different person, and maybe he uses another brand of toy which is very similar. Then he will buy that one. So he may change also the process. And the user is the child. So as a marketing guy, because there are many different roles in households, in families, you have to direct your message to all of them to satisfy their requirements. For mommy, you have to be sure that the product is safe and educated. For the father, for example, it works for that money. So price performance is good, value for money is good. Okay, and the buyer, of course, the children should also, the user, the initiator should like the product. So as you see in your marketing communications, you have to check all. Organizational buyers are also important. In the organizational buyers, we have companies, and it is a process. There are many people in the process, and of course, these many people decide together to buy something. The evaluation criteria generally are the technical specifications of the product, and impulse buying is even impossible. Decisions are made on this criteria and the past experience. And of course, because it is risky decision, because there's a large amount of money under consideration, the buying unit or purchasing committee decides to buy the products. So this is very important. So what type of purchases in purchasing decisions the companies follow? So there's a three type: the straight buy, modified buy, and the new task. What is the straight rebuy? The straight rebuy actually is a habitual decision. Once I have a product which is already bought and used by the company, and everybody is happy about this product, and what happens? We buy again without changing the vendor, supplier, and the type of the product. This is a straight rebuy. There is low risk because we already know the product, and it is not really too much. The purchasing committee doesn't need to make a remake the decision because it is already decided and the orders are handled in automatic ways. The modified rebuy, by the way, is what we have when we change the vendor or the product type or the content of the product. When there is a considerable change, then it is a modified rebuy. But the product is the same. The product is again the same. We are repurchasing the product, but we make some modifications. And maybe we change the vendor also. This is called a modified rebuy. And finally, we have a new task. In the new task, all the purchasing decision making is handled once again. What type of purchasing decision we have here? We have, let's say, first, the need recognition. The company recognizes that needs something. Then we need to really check whether whether there are alternatives. We look for information and we find the alternative companies that we can get this product. Then we choose one. We ask the offers from different alternatives companies. We evaluate the offers. Then, based on this evaluation, we decide on one company to buy this product. We prepare order specification, details of the order in terms of product size, amount, volume, in which terms it will be delivered, etc. And we conclude the order specification, then we buy the product. This is the new task, and it is an extensive problem solving. The committee and the purchasing unit makes different meetings, and the risks are high because it's the first time, so we need to make a right decision. This is the new task situation. Yes, dear students. So today we have looked at to consumer decision making process, and this was the last topic that we covered in this semester. So this is all from my side. And do you have any questions? 16th of June at 2 o'clock. Thank you.